So we have with us Steve Martin, author of The Small Big. It's actually 52 little things you can do to influence people in a big way. And that's the crazy part. These things are low cost or no cost, small. Just share this one that you implemented in the Great Britain just to collect more taxes. This is crazy because people don't want to pay taxes.
People don't want to pay taxes, and some people fail to submit their returns on time. And it turns out that the small change was to simply and truthfully place across the top of the standard letter the fact that the majority of people in the United Kingdom do actually pay their taxes. And that resulted in a response rate from typically 67%, which is the response rate if you threaten a fine, to 72%. And the more specific that message, that social norm, if you like, is that these are people in your zip code and the people in your named town, the effect is heightened even more. And so you can collect literally hundreds of millions of dollars of additional cash-to-bank revenues from an insight that's costless and, I think most surprising to me, didn't come about by best practice. Came about from an insight from persuasion science. Yeah,
because as you pointed out, governments have been collecting taxes for 12 centuries, and you would think they would have kind of figured out how to get people to do this.
Exactly right, exactly right.
And what's good is that we can apply this to ourselves because, look, we're all sending out massive amounts of communication every single day through our advertising, through our emails, through our social media, and just changing the order of words, just changing what we say can have this huge, huge influence. Now, you mentioned that all of this is grouped under three main things that we've learned about influencing people. So if you could share those.
Sure, yeah. So, despite the abundance of tactics, strategies, individual, approaches that we could employ to influence and persuade someone, it seems that the vast majority of the most successful ones can be categorized or gain rather their persuasive power because they align to one of these fundamental motivations. And the motivations are that, in a crazy information overloaded world, people want to make decisions in as accurate and an efficient way as they possibly can.
And stop there. So the wine list example was amazing. So quickly.
Yeah, well, one way in which we can decide whether something is an accurate and efficient decision is to not consider what's being offered, but what we see first. So, a cheaper wine on the list influences our perception of the subsequent wines that we actually see. And so, if you're in the wine business and you want people to perhaps choose a more premium wine, putting the more expensive wines at the top of your list so they ascend in price seems like a good decision to make. It's small, it doesn't really cost you that much, and you're not changing anything about what's being offered. You're just changing the way in which it is offered.
And it was tested, and it was about a 30% higher priced wine. People chose just the order you chose to list it. And so this idea that what I see slightly before really influences. By the way, I thought there was a brilliant idea about these expert introductions. That's something I think every one of us can take advantage of.
Yeah, so here's another cue, if you like, that we use to determine whether what we are deciding is accurate and efficient. So in these studies in realtors' offices, we found that those real estate agents who had their expertise introduced at the point of an inquiry, so I'm interested in selling my property, the receptionist would say, well, let me put you through to Siobhan, who has 12 years experience selling properties in this area. She is a member of the Estate Agent Guild. She's going to be a good person to help you with your inquiry, advise you. When they did that, despite it being a costless and truthful intervention, they measured a 20% increase in the number of inquiries that were converted to appointments. And then subsequently, those appointments where they valued the property registered a 15% increase in signed contracts. Entirely costless, entirely truthful. What a wonderful way to increase appointments, conversions, and signed contracts just by arranging for your expertise to be introduced.
And so that ties to the second. What's the second kind of basic motivation?
Well, the second basic motivation is this idea that we want to make decisions in a way that gains the approval of others, allows us to create networks, affiliations with others. So anything that we can do in an influence attempt that aligns to that fundamental motive should increase or enhance the likelihood that that persuasive appeal will be successful.
Yeah, so we used one where we said, hey, there's 40,000 other companies using our tools. That's a way for people to feel like, hey, I'm part of the crowd and being able to trust that these tools will be useful.
I think so. And there's a particular type of testimonial, if you like, that I think is especially important. And it's a mistake that I think is often made, is that you see organizations attempt to persuade new clients, new customers by presenting those testimonials that they are proudest of. You know, these are the great companies that we've done work with, you know, those high-profile brands. And I think that's a mistake sometimes. Yeah. You know, instead considering how your testimonial most or best matches that individual, that group, or that organization you're influencing in that moment in time, I think is a far more effective. You know, we are herd creatures, but those herds that we follow most are those that we are most comparable to and have a social identity with.
And then the third.
We want to make decisions in a way that allows us to feel positive about ourselves, elevate our ego, our esteem. And so anything that one can do to present an appeal that allows us to do that, again, should be more persuasive.
And so including people's photos just in proposals, I thought was, again, something very, very simple but powerful.
Yeah, that's, you know, the studies come from the medical industry that find that you know, putting a photograph of a patient on an X-ray, those doctors that then view that X-ray typically take greater care, pay more attention to the X-ray, and recommend more treatments and more caring treatments as a result. So, you know, I don't have any data to support this, but I guess the extrapolation would be anything you can do to humanize those communications, you know, rather than present a rather clinical, rather dehumanized spreadsheet, and put someone's name on. You know, this is Jill and her team. These are the people that are going to benefit from, you know, these extra resources that I'm pitching for here. Put a face on the proposal, I think, is the simple way of concluding that.
Good. Well, Steve, I just recommend strongly everyone get the book, go through it. I love it. It's very, very short chapters, just a few pages of each of these 52 very actionable ideas. And I have no doubt it's going to move the needle for any company and any executive that embraces these. So thank you very much for coming by our Growth Summit.
Pleasure, Verne. Thank you very much indeed for having me. Cheers.